Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our very first session for Source Fashion. I am delighted to be having this conversation with Rebekah Roy, and I'm even happier that we've got Sarah here, who we're collaborating this season with our Sustainable Catwalk. So I'd like to hand over to Rebekah for our in-conversation session with Sarah Regensburger.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for all coming today. We've been really fortunate to have Sarah on the catwalk. I've known her for a number of years, and in a very short time, she's done some remarkable things. And I think it's so important in London to support young talent in the sustainable sphere. And within a few years, she's been on celebrity after celebrity. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and how to build your brand and how to create your sustainable brand. So there's some questions that I wanted to really talk to Sarah about. Some really simple ones, just sort of how did you start your brand? What inspired you to start your brand?
Well, it kind of started for me moving to London. I'm originally from Germany. And then I moved here in 2018, and I actually had the idea of working for, another brand. And I applied and applied. And then, I just got a rejection after rejection. And there's a quote that I love. It's rejection is redirection, which actually led me to think about starting my own brand instead of wasting my time, just applying and getting rejections. And then I was just like, I should put all that time and effort into my own brand. And what really inspired me was at that point I became vegan. And then I was just seeing this niche in the market doing luxury fashion that's vegan, using really innovative materials. And, that really inspired me and showed me that I'm on the right path, really.
Well, being at somewhere like Source and talking about innovative materials, how difficult and challenging has it been trying to find innovative materials? Like one of the pieces we have on the catwalk today is cactus leather, which is great to see. So how, as a challenge, even buying it in smaller quantities, being a young designer, how has that been for you?
Well, it's been quite challenging. I mean, there is a lot of research and trying out things, especially on clothing. I feel like that was quite a challenge because most of the materials that are innovative are quite thick, so they are more easy to use on bags and shoes. So it's really trying to find a way to work with them. And the biggest challenge also was to find someone that wants to sew these materials because they are so new. And it's quite different than using, for example, leather. And we know how to use leather and different materials because we've been doing that for ages. But with like cactus leather, for example, you really have to try it out, and the manufacturer and production has to try new things out. So I think that was the biggest challenge, really. And as well as, finding those different materials and what could work and what also looks really good on garments. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge, really.
So in a lot of your catwalk shows, you've had a lot of diversity in your shows and things, and I'm really sort of wondering, I sort of want to dig a little bit deeper, sort of going back to, heritage and what really inspired the work that you're doing. You've talked a lot about your mother, you talked about how your father influenced you to not eat meat and how we've taken that into... Because sometimes you don't think that what you eat and how we live our daily lives is going to become part of our fashion. This has sort of been separate. The food that we cook, the organic food that we cook, that we've seen in the supermarket for ages. It's only in the recent years that we now sort of go to a shop where we go, oh, I can have these options and things. So as a designer, how did that sort of marriage and your ethos sort of come about?
Well, from that side, I just thought when I became vegan. So my dad started this journey. So he told me about, why he stopped eating meat from one day to the other, and I got really inspired by that. So I thought maybe I should try it if my dad is doing it. So so I started to become vegan, and when I moved here and started a brand, I was just thinking my lifestyle changed. So that's when that was a little bit of my wake-up call. I'm like, oh, if I'm vegan and that's my lifestyle, I'm not wearing any leather or animal products, then my brand should have the same ethos because it's my personal brand. So this is kind of where I started. It really influenced me, and also with my heritage, my parents are from Iran. And I grew up with the stories of my mom telling me in 1979, she was going to the protests because of the Islamic Revolution. So I was growing up with this. So literally all what my brand represents is so personal. So all these stories about the women going into the streets fighting for their rights, that really inspired me, you know, that's why. So I call my brand and my clients and myself rebels with a cause. And that's where it comes from, because those women, those people in Iran, the stories of my mother, they really inspired me to have that ethos and also represent a lot of diversity. Because again, I have a different heritage. I always felt a little bit different. So I want my brand to represent everybody, because we all wear fashion, so it should be for everybody. So that's my ethos behind it, which is all very personal based.
So it's almost the reclaiming of the other.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of us sort of feel like we're always on the periphery of something, that we don't find a place sort of that where we belong in fashion. And the whole thing about fashion is that it can be so inclusive. We can all, you know, really be a part of that. So how is that translated into the rest of your work? Like you recently did a show at London Fashion Week. So how would you say that sort of rebel with a cause translated, and how would we see that? What was the visual for that?
So first of all, I'm getting really inspired by people, and by travels, and like, I think it's just a lot about personality. And when I choose my models, I don't only see the look, I see their personality, and that's so important. And that's why I think my choice of models at the last London Fashion Week was just so unique, because they had unique personalities, they had their own personality. And I just like the idea of, you know, not the model just wearing my clothes, but I feel like they become alive on a person. So this is kind of and I think you can really see that, because, you know, if the model feels good in it, like, they wear it in a different way. And we all know this, if we wear something and we feel good in it, we represent it in a very different way. And I get really inspired also by my heritage. So yeah, especially for the new season, it's really, really inspired by Iran and, you know, the revolution. So yeah.
Oh, that's really fascinating. One of the things that I sort of wanted to talk to, like, as the dilemmas of being a small designer, and how you work with manufacturers, and how finding those people to work with.
Well, it's a lot of research, and I think, you know, platforms like Source are amazing for that, that we have such a good platform, and, you know, to find different people we can work with. I think the biggest challenge, though, for young designers, so we're still trying to find our market. We still are trying to find what we sell and to who we sell. And it's an ongoing journey, and I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I still sometimes order things that don't sell in the end, and then I don't order things that sell. Like, it's really that part of the journey where we try to figure out what we sell, but then the minimums are, of course, a little bit higher. So we end up having stock, which, as a sustainable brand, I don't really want to have stock, you know, left over. So this is like the ongoing journey of, like, finding materials, and then if you want to find a cool material, you have to order that certain amount, and you have import and, like, all of that. And also manufacturing, I think the minimums sometimes are really, like, tough for young designers to, you know, if we have to order 100, what if I don't sell that piece? That's, I think, the most tricky part about it, really.
Which I think is something all young designers experience, and all manufacturers experience, wanting to have that tail sweep of having, you know, smaller designers to be able to manufacture to, but we still need those sort of numbers. So one of the things that you said quite a few years ago, you know, that your garments were for people who were special, and you were, I think this is in like 2017, 18, you were sort of saying, I'd love, you know, I could imagine my garments on people like Lady Gaga. And now all of these things have happened to you. You've got an amazing roster of celebrities. And I know sometimes it's hard to say, you know, why does that happen? I know you've had, you know, some great PR that to work with. But what do you think has been that sort of newness, why people have been really attracted to what you've been doing, you know, in that celebrity sphere?
So I think that what the clothes show is being badass. And I feel like when I design them, I have this very specific badass, you know, person in mind, which is very empowering and really strong character. And I, like, all the celebrities that I've dressed definitely represent that. So I feel like maybe it's just my vision of who wears it. And, like, Lady Gaga is such an icon. So and stands for so many things. So I feel like that was just amazing. And I'm also a Lady Gaga fan, so that was especially, I was like, oh my god, that's such an honor. She wore my piece. But also the cat suits, like I can remember back 10 years ago, really, when I started, I did those lace cat suits, and everybody told me, no one's gonna wear that. No one's, 10 years ago, it's not even funny, like, no, who's gonna wear this? No one is gonna wear a lace cat suit, and I have the ones with the mask as well, but like, everybody's like, this is too crazy. But this shows that if you really believe in a product, you just stand up for it, because now, most celebrities wore this cat suit, where if I wouldn't have believed in it and just listened what other people tell me, then, they wouldn't have worn by Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, like, they all wore the lace cat suit. So it's really about believing in that and, having the vision and believing in what you believe in, because, yeah.
So I know there's self-belief when we have ideas for what we want, but what sort of made you not listen to people? Was it just that you knew it was a good idea, just something that you liked, or you just being that rebel?
So being a rebel, for sure. I could only be always a rebel because I was raised by a rebel. But I like the way the catsuit make you feel. I have still a lot of times where people tell me I can't wear the catsuit. It's lace and it's see-through, and I'm too curvy, or it doesn't suit me. And I'm like, it suits everyone. And this is why I think when you wear it, you feel different. You move different. It's a very special piece because it makes you feel different, and it suits everybody. And every time when a person wears it, they're like, oh, yeah, I love it. I want to have that catsuit. So that's why I really believed in it, because it looked good on everybody.
Yeah, I believe that, because I didn't believe it. Like, I didn't. I was just like, really? It's going to look good on everyone? Because I'm only like 5'2", I'm curvy, I'm not tall, like model-esque. And I tried it on and I was like, oh my God, I feel amazing. And I always feel, even though I love fashion, I always feel that fashion shouldn't have this power over us. It shouldn't be able to have just so much unique power on its own. But when we can merge that with what we really feel on the inside and what we're wearing on the outside and how that really comes together, you can really have those successful fashion moments. And I think that's what that jumpsuit has been, because you can wear it on your own, you can restyle it with something. And I think Sarah and I have worked together for a long time. I met her, I think, almost before you started your career.
Yeah. 2008, just when I moved here.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Yeah, we met at a it was a styling workshop, and that's how we met. And we just sort of stayed in touch, and Sarah's brand has just grown and grown. And so one of the things that you took the initiative, I don't know which year now it was to only do one collection a year. Mm-hmm. That was sort of part of your sustainable
journey. Yeah, because I believe we are producing, and I feel like it's not really healthy for anyone in the industry. And at the end of the day, there is, so many places there is no seasons. So I don't really believe in seasons, because I do think you can have a variety and all over the world, because my clothes are for everyone, and there are so many different places. There is no summer or winter. So I try to just do one collection, drop it in 2 different, drop it in seasons, let's say so. But I really believe that's the future, because we are all, everyone is more thinking about sustainability and buying more timeless products. So I do believe my products are timeless, and just at the catwalk show, I think we have all seasons I worked on. So we show them in one collection and they all work together, which shows me we don't really need to have too many products. It's overwhelming. So yeah, it goes more into, so with those seasons, I feel like we really follow also what fast fashion does, which I don't believe in. So yeah, that's why I'm just doing one season. And yeah, it works well. I really believe in it.
I think that's one of the things that we're sort of looking at, because I know we talk a lot about one season, but I was just visiting my parents in Canada, and it was 34 degrees. But I also know where they live in the winter, it's minus 34, so it's a 60-degree difference of winter. So I'm always the type of person who wants to buy a garment, have it for life, but really get the most wear out of it, to really restyle it, to have layers with it. And I think that's one of Sarah's successes is that her garments allow you to really play like that and get the most wear. And we've talked a lot, I think almost for the last 15 years, of when people buy things, people want to buy something that's special. We don't want to just buy something that's basic. That if we're going to spend our really hard-earned money, we want to buy something that makes us feel great and that really suits our personality. And I think that's one of the places that you're sort of finding your success, that it is a lot about personality and finding that, as we even saw in the catwalk show, the diversity of size. Because that's something you've been really aware of, being size inclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really personal to me as well, because when I grew up, I feel like there was no curvy models on the catwalk. So I always thought like I need to look like the models, and which is fine. Everybody is different. Like we're all different sizes, but that's really personal to me, where I think we should not just tick boxes, because I feel like now it became, a ticking box if you see big shows. And this is why it's so important to me to show everyone. So I feel like everybody can resonate with like the clothing. Oh, that looks good on me because look, it looks cool on the model. So it's really, really, really personal to me, because I didn't see that growing up, which was in the 90s. So it was very, Kate Moss era. Which is great. She looks the way she does, and we all do, and that's perfect because we're perfect the way we are. So I just still want to represent that, so everyone feels welcome and connected, because that was so important to me when I was younger. So yeah.
So how do you see your brand moving forward?
So I think the brand moving forward, I would like to create a bit more awareness about why I do vegan fashion, because I feel like loads of people don't really know. We are more aware of like veganism in the food industry. So I want to like create a platform where I can, just talk about it a little bit more, and also share more the story behind the brand, really, really work on innovative materials. I found really incredible materials I want to implement for the new season. And my goal would be that the brand is completely plant-based. But that's further down the line, because I still want to be creatively free. So yeah, that's really still on the way to get better and better. In all ways, really, to make it a really good, solid, sustainable, and vegan brand. So yeah, that's my goals.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. And I think that's still just one of the challenges, is finding manufacturers who do all those things, because we have amazing fabrics like Milo and things, but they're still not really available on this kind of level. So we're seeing all of these things happen, but it's still very, very new. And I think that's the thing, that when we talk about still sustainability, and there's so many aspects of what is sustainable, and what is vegan fashion. It's a huge, in a way, it's a bit of a minefield, but I always feel like if you can, it's just those steps forward. And I think that's something at Source we're trying to move forward, being able to have those tick boxes where at some point, and I'm hoping during my lifetime, this becomes normal. Like sustainability will just be normal. Then there'll be something else. We'll start to look at, what are the we've been looking at who's made my clothes for a long time. That's just become part of our ethos. And now it's going to be what dyes are used in my clothes, what chemicals are on my clothes, what are they doing to my skin? And that I'm finding really interesting, reading about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's a progress. So it doesn't need to be perfect, because sometimes I'm really harsh on myself. I'm like, well, I'm using polyester here, or this is a mix or whatever. But honestly, I feel like when you're really trying to do something good, it doesn't need to be perfect. We can all really make small steps towards a better future. And this is one of the ethos of the brand as well. It's we all have the power to change the world. And that's individually, step by step. It doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be perfect. But yeah, we are working on it. And that's just, that's the goal, to step by step, develop a better future, and we can all do that.
So if you could say to manufacturers, this is what I want them to be able to do for you as an up-and-coming designer, what would you need and want from manufacturers?
I think just really working maybe with like more innovative materials, because sometimes getting the innovative material and then finding a production that wants to work with it, manufacturer, that's the tricky part. So maybe if they have like a small range of, let's say, I don't know, cactus leather as an example, codes, and they start researching how they can use it on a bigger scale as well. I think that would be really helpful, and that would be my wish. that gets easier for me then to work with the suppliers and manufacturers as well.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, what else do you wish for? Because I know one of the things that you love to do in life is to sort of manifest, put something out in the world to go, who is your next celebrity? Who's your next shop? What would you like the next steps for your brand to be?
Well, the next steps for my brand. So the next, if I would manifest it again, is like completely plant-based. Everything's plant-based. That I would wish for, that we get so far with the materials. I also would like to collaborate with Iranian women. So I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but like that's, I feel like they are so creative and they have such a beautiful history, and I think they don't have the platform to showcase.
And you were recently there.
Yeah, I was there in September. I was at the protests. I don't know if you know, but right now they protest because the Masa Amani was killed because she didn't wear the hijab accordingly. So I was over there and we were in the protest, which was scary but very inspiring. It's a weird feeling to describe. So yeah, this is why I felt like, they don't really have the opportunity to showcase the amazing work they're doing. So I'd like already for London Fashion Week in September to collaborate with Iranian women and show how amazing work they do. So that's something that's really, really close to my heart to do. London Fashion Week in September, I'm planning something really different, which I always do. So yeah, that's kind of the main next big steps.
Well, that's very exciting. I want to just open up to the floor just in case any of you have any questions. I know it's always like putting you guys on the spot a little bit. Sure, go ahead. You just have to be a bit, we've got a mic.
Ooh.
I just wanted to ask, as a creative, we all struggle kind of like believing in ourselves. I wanted to ask if you've ever experienced anything like that, and if you ever did, how did you overcome it?
So the biggest thing, and yes, definitely, I feel like as a creative, it's really tough and you struggle to not give up. What really kept me going is my purpose and the why. If your why is big enough, and I think that is for everything in life, then you won't give up. So for me, I believe this is my life purpose, because I want to show the world that vegan fashion is sexy and badass. And this is why I just kept going. So if you have a big enough why and why you're doing this, and find your purpose in it, and do good. For me, it's like doing good. Fashion can be kind and good. Then I feel like you won't give up. So, and then you have the bigger picture in mind. Have the bigger picture in mind and, do step by step. I think this is what keeps you going always and forever, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I know exactly. And it's really hard to find your why. I think Sarah and I talk a lot about those things and purpose. We talk a lot about food, veganism, why vegan fashion, why fashion, and what we can do with that, the power of it, and just having that really epic vision going that fashion can do good. Fashion is fun. Fashion, we all have to wear things, so why can't we make everything better? So it's really having that vision, but you have to believe in it, even when other people make you waver. You don't lose sight of what you believe. But sometimes it's hard to figure out, what do I believe in? What works for me? Yeah. Great question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, like, with the celebrity clientele, like, with your first ones, did they find you? Did their stylist find you, or did you reach out to them?
Yeah, good question. So the first one with British Vogue, with Lady Gaga, I can't even tell you how they found me, but I had this email in my inbox. So they did approach me directly, and I sent a catsuit. I was obviously, you can imagine, I was like, this was a dream, so I was like freaking out. But yeah, they approached me directly. I do think it is because that was exactly when I was part of the British Fashion Council on their platform. So I guess they found me like that. I don't know. However, I do work with a PR agency. They're based in London and in LA. And for Taylor Swift, for example, they came to the showroom and they saw the catsuit. And, that usually works like that. The stylist takes loads of different pieces and then the celebrity either wears them or not. But that's how it works. So it's a agency.
And it's really hard because, like, say I'm dressing a celebrity, I might have 4 rails of clothes to show that celebrity. But the whole thing is when you've got a really good and sincere angle of what you're doing, because it's very easy to show people like 5 cat suits, and then I can say, this one's made by a vegan designer who's really pushing her sustainable ethos. I'd want to wear it. So it's those stories that we have behind our clothes that really resonate with someone. And I think when a celebrity does wear a designer's clothes, it's about that fit. Because sometimes we see these collaborations, maybe a designer doing a collaboration with a super brand, and we're just like, really? Why? You almost feel like they sold out. And then sometimes you see some collaborations and you're just like, wow, those people really fit together. So it's finding those people who would fit your brand. And I think Sarah's forever been sort of creating a little list in her head and writing it down of going who she would love to dress, who would fit those beliefs. But finding those celebrities to wear your garments, or connecting with stylists who will connect you to do that. It's just finding, again, people with the same ethos. So the stronger your own ethos is, the more someone understands what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Well, thank you so much for coming today, and thank you, Sarah, for being here. I hope you get to see the catwalk show. You can see her later on today on our catwalk this week. So thank you again so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.